cheated out of my promotion. My payback was brutal.
"You're done, Arthur." My voice was calm, steady, echoing slightly in the vast, empty boardroom. Arthur Vance, my former mentor and boss, sat across the mahogany table, looking utterly defeated. The thick packet of documents detailing his securities fraud and insider trading lay before him. He looked up at me, just once, his eyes raw with panic and disbelief. He mouthed something I couldn't quite make out, but the message was clear. "Please." I met his gaze without flinching. I didn't smile, but I felt the cold, clean weight of justice. I should have felt guilty. After all, he was the one who had brought me into this firm, promised me the world, and taught me the ropes. But after he deliberately cheated me out of the promotion I earned, and then tried to frame me for his own mistake, that feeling was replaced by cold, calculated satisfaction. You're probably wondering how it got this far, how I went from being his most trusted protégé to the person who handed the evidence of his betrayal to the FBI. But that wasn't where it started. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and drop where you're watching from, because what comes next, you won't believe how brutally justice turned the tables. My name is Caleb Vance. I'm 30 years old, and 4 years ago, I thought I had landed my dream job. I was hired as a senior portfolio analyst at Westgate Financial Group, a boutique investment firm known for its high-risk, high-reward strategy. The man who hired me was Arthur Vance, no relation, but he instantly felt like family. Arthur was vice president, 45, charismatic, and a legend for his aggressive, profitable trading. "You're sharp, Caleb," Arthur told me during my final interview. "You have the talent. Stick with me, and I'll put you on the fast track. You'll be running your own team in 2 years." I believed him. I threw myself into the work. 70-hour weeks were normal. I was obsessed with the market, finding patterns Arthur missed, delivering returns that impressed senior partners. My fiancée, Willow, a photographer, was my rock. She would bring me coffee to the office at midnight. "You're going to be the best, Caleb," she'd say. That feeling of shared ambition and support was everything. Arthur and I became inseparable. We worked late, we hit the gym, and we often grabbed drinks after the market closed. He was my mentor, my champion. He had a saying that became our mantra: "The market rewards the prepared mind, but it never trusts the honest one." I thought he was talking about institutional skepticism. I didn't realize he was talking about his own code of conduct. Caleb delivers a massive win. This success sets the stage for the promotion and the inevitable betrayal. 18 months in, I delivered my masterpiece. I spent 6 months designing an automated arbitrage strategy for global bonds. It was complex, elegant, and perfectly legal. When we deployed it, it delivered unprecedented quarterly returns for the firm, generating massive bonuses for Arthur and securing a huge new round of capital. Arthur was ecstatic. He took me out to dinner and promised me the reward. "This is it, Caleb. You've earned the Director of Research promotion. You handle the team, I'll handle the board. We're pitching the promotion next week." I was on top of the world. Willow and I started looking at engagement rings. I finally felt like I was ready to build the future we deserved. I had earned Arthur's trust through hard work and loyalty. I didn't realize that I was simply a tool whose usefulness was about to expire. The betrayal didn't come with a fight. It came with a smile. 2 weeks after Arthur promised me the promotion, I was called into the CEO's office. Danielle Hayes, the CEO, sat stone-faced beside Arthur. "Caleb," Danielle began, her voice formal, "we've decided on the new Director of Research." My heart pounded with anticipation. I braced for the congratulations. "We've decided that Jeremy Reed will take the role," she finished. The air left the room. Jeremy? Jeremy was a competent analyst, but he hadn't delivered a fraction of the results I had. He hadn't worked a single late night on the bond strategy. I looked at Arthur, searching for an explanation, an apology, a joke. He avoided my eyes. Well, Jeremy has a stronger background in client relations, Arthur explained smoothly, looking at the ceiling. It was a tough call, Caleb. You're brilliant, but we need someone with Jeremy's soft skills for the director role. Keep grinding. You'll get the next one. Keep grinding? The phrase echoed the dismissive excuses of every bad boss I'd ever heard about. That strategy delivered a $5 million quarter. That was my work. Jeremy was on vacation when I built that plan. It was a team effort, Caleb, Arthur corrected, his voice hardening. Everything you create belongs to Westgate. That's how hierarchy works. You're an analyst, not a visionary. He walked out, leaving me stunned. I understood then what I was, not a protégé, but an exploited resource. Caleb discovers Arthur's bigger crime. It wasn't just about cheating him out of a promotion. I couldn't quit. My 2-year non-compete clause would bar me from the entire Chicago financial district. I was trapped, forced to work under the man who'd stolen my promotion and now my credibility. Over the next 6 months, the emotional torment was brutal. Jeremy, the new director, sat in my meetings, taking credit for my ideas, managing the team I should have been leading. Arthur treated me like a disgruntled subordinate. The ultimate injustice came when Arthur made a catastrophic error. He ignored my analysis on a major investment, prioritizing a risky trade based on an unfounded rumor. The fund lost a huge amount of capital. The fallout was immense. The firm went into panic mode. Arthur, facing the ruin of his career, needed a scapegoat. He called me into his office and placed a folder on his desk. It contained emails and memos he had fabricated, showing that I had provided the faulty analysis and insisted on the trade. You're going to sign a document admitting that you made an error in judgment that led to the Q4 loss, Arthur said, his voice low and dangerous. If you sign, I'll keep your job safe and we'll manage the fallout internally. If you don't, I'll fire you for incompetence and make sure you never work on Wall Street again. Secrets protect people. Sign it. He was framing me. He wasn't just stealing my credit. He was trying to destroy my reputation and my career to save his own. He was using his golden parachute to burn me on the way down. Arthur demands Caleb sign a document admitting his fault in the massive loss. I stood in his office shaking. The man I trusted had not only stolen my future, but was now trying to bury me under a pile of lies. That was the night I stopped trusting and started planning. I didn't sign the document. I walked out. I knew any accusation I made against Arthur would be dismissed as the raving of a disgruntled, soon-to-be-fired junior analyst. He controlled the hierarchy, the CEO's ear, and the narrative. I needed external proof of something far bigger than just a stolen promotion. I spent the next 2 weeks living in the shadows. I knew Arthur's weakness, his ego, and his carelessness when he thought he was untouchable. I started digging into the one thing Arthur said the market never trusted: the honest ones. I wasn't looking for stolen credit anymore. I was looking for crime. Caleb searches the firm's records for Arthur's biggest mistake. I used my intimate knowledge of the firm's servers and my old administrator access codes to bypass security protocols at night. It was dangerous. Every keystroke was a risk. I focused on Arthur's largest, most profitable trades from the last 3 years. It took dozens of sleepless nights, fueled by Willow's unwavering support, but I found it. Arthur wasn't just ignoring my analysis. He was trading on insider information. He was receiving non-public market data from a contact at a major tech firm, using that information to buy stocks just hours before mergers were announced. And the catastrophic Q4 loss? That was his desperate attempt to cover his tracks after a previous insider trade was flagged by the SEC, an attempt he tried to pin on me. The fraud was massive, and the evidence was meticulously hidden in encrypted communication logs. He thought he'd used proprietary encryption to cover the tracks. He forgot that I wrote the code for that encryption system. I copied everything: the encrypted chat logs, the trade confirmations, the internal memos showing Arthur knew the trade was risky but proceeded anyway. I burned the files onto a small, secure USB drive. That became my symbolic object, my insurance policy. I showed the evidence to Willow first. She stared at the screen, her face white. "He's going to prison, Caleb," she said. I told her he stole more than just my promotion. He risked the entire firm, and he tried to destroy me to cover his tracks. I didn't go to the CEO. I contacted
the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and the FBI's white-collar crime division. I presented myself not as a victim seeking revenge, but as a concerned analyst reporting criminal securities fraud. The twist came when the FBI contacted me 3 weeks later. They didn't just confirm Arthur was under investigation, they revealed the depth of his arrogance. "Mr. Vance," the agent said calmly, "we have discovered that Mr. Vance has been paying off a member of the Westgate board for years to ignore his activities. When he framed you, he had the board's silent approval. The rot goes deeper than just one man." I realized then that my fight wasn't just against Arthur, it was against the entire corrupt system he represented. The stakes were no longer just my career. They were the integrity of the firm. The FBI needed more. They needed me to return to the office, a final, dangerous assignment. They needed me to log a final trade and confirm Arthur's involvement in the cover-up while wearing a wire. I agreed. I had nothing left to lose. I had to face him one last time, not as his protégé, but as the witness to his destruction. The day I returned to the office, Arthur was smug. He assumed I was broken, ready to sign the confession and slink away. "I see you finally came to your senses, Caleb," he said, ushering me into his office. "Sign the confession, and we'll let you quietly resign. You keep your reputation intact." I put on the performance of a lifetime. I cried. I apologized for my error and the stress I'd caused. I sold him the image of the weak, broken subordinate he expected, all while the tiny recorder in my shirt pocket captured every word. I led him through a staged conversation about the Q4 loss, carefully guiding him to admit he had ordered the trade and fabricated the cover-up documents, the same documents he wanted me to sign. "I did what I had to do," Arthur admitted, tapping the false memo. "You were the easy choice, Caleb. Easier than prison." That single line, the admission that he chose to destroy me because I was easy, was the final damning piece of evidence. The next morning, the FBI acted. They arrested Arthur and the implicated board members simultaneously. The moment of pure, perfect revenge happened in the boardroom 2 weeks later, during Arthur's final meeting before his formal indictment. Arthur sat there, flanked by his lawyers, watching the firm's senior partners divide the assets. The board had offered me a deal: drop the civil suit, receive full financial compensation for the lost bonuses, and take Arthur's position as vice president of strategic trading. Arthur looked up, and his eyes met mine. "Arthur," I said calmly, using the same cold, dismissive tone he had used with me 6 months earlier, "you're still learning how this business works. The strong don't steal credit, they exploit systems. You want to know what the real cost of your arrogance is? I pulled out the internal memo showing his initial promise: you'll be running your own team in 2 years. You promised me this job," I finished, placing the memo on the table. "You just didn't realize I'd be taking it from you after I exposed your crimes." He collapsed in his chair, utterly defeated. Same office, same words. But now he was the one begging, and I was the one with the power. The firm was restructured. The criminals were gone. My name was cleared, and the director title was finally mine. 2 years later, I'm VP of Strategic Trading. I run my team with absolute transparency. Junior analysts get full credit every time. I teach them that the prepared mind is essential, but integrity is non-negotiable. Willow and I finally got married. We bought a house, a place built on honesty, not fraud. Last month, I received a letter from Arthur in prison. It was a rambling mix of justification and plea, ending with a request for forgiveness. I didn't answer. I didn't hate him, but I wasn't going to offer him peace he didn't earn. I learned that revenge doesn't fix pain, it measures it. It quantifies the damage and demands a consequence. The only thing that truly fixes the pain is building something real and honest on the ruins of the lie. Arthur tried to teach me that secrets protect people. I proved him wrong. Truth protects people. I chose to be the honest mind that the market tried to break, and I won. The hardest part wasn't the trial, it was that last meeting. Looking at the man who chose to destroy me because I was easy. But I am no longer easy. I am strong. I'm Caleb Vance. My boss betrayed me, but I used his own arrogance to expose his crimes and take his job. What would you have done? Would you have signed the confession to save your job, or fought back and risk everything? Comment below. I read every one. Justice always finds its way. I'm Zach, and this was another true tale of revenge.